Welcome back. Judge Stephen Platt served on the Maryland state courts for nearly 30 years. He's also written extensively on how to hold judges accountable and whether electing judges is the best course of action. And I cannot think of a more perfect time to have a member of the bench join the show. Thank you so much for joining us, Judge.
Glad to be
We're
here.
grateful to have you. First, I have to ask, what is your take on the president calling for the impeachment of the chief judge of the D.C. District Court because he doesn't like the decision?
One of my premises of life is everything, including human beings and circumstances and situations, are more complicated than either side wants them to be. Mm-hmm. And that would be my answer to that. I think what's happening is that there's a test going on, and understandably so, of the executive branch, seeing how much they're operating on a theory called the unified executive. It's a law school product, but the test with the Congress of the United States is different than it'll be with the judiciary. And I think that I always tell people who want to be judges, if you want to be judge, you got to be very comfortable with making decisions with that limited information. Here, these are judges that have, federal judges have lifetime tenure. Mm-hmm. The attack on any one of us, in my opinion, will be viewed collectively and individually, and the reaction may not be the same as what is being anticipated.
What do you mean?
The president appointed 3 people. I think what he's trying to do is steer this conflict, which is essentially a jurisdictional conflict, toward the Supreme Court, mm-hmm. where his 3 nominees are presumed to be on his corner. I'm not so sure.
Right. I mean, they even personally attacked Justice Amy Coney Barrett because she didn't go his way.
She's already been attacked. She has an interesting background. She's a former law professor, 7th Circuit judge. She's not going to be intimidated because of her religious faith, among other things. You have different personalities on there. I had Justice Gorsuch, when he was a lawyer, in front of me on a case that took 6 weeks in the Circuit Court for Prince George's County.
How was he?
He was super prepared and very, very intelligent and did extremely well in that case, which was a complicated case. My point is that just as MAGA will rally to the president, the judiciary will rally to its own. If the attack goes to Roberts, that's like attacking my chief.
Right.
And I'm not sure the reaction is going to be to give up or to exceed or to anything else. So his agenda, which is going to end up in front of the Supreme Court by design, it looks that mm-hmm. way, and don't blame him.
For sure.
Is not necessarily going to get a good reception if it comes in the context of an attack on the judiciary itself, including the Chief Justice.
What happens if the Trump administration ignores this court order or a Supreme Court decision? What happens in this country?
I wish I knew. I don't think anyone knows. I do think that the theory is that the judiciary is President Jackson said, which President Trump has modeled himself after somewhat, yes. Said, you know, if you've now the order, you enforce it. Well, the problem is he does, unlike any of the other people, Chief Justice Roberts has a podium too. So the answer to the question is don't know, but it's not, again, quite as simple as either side would like it to be. And we'll find out, but I think the psychology is, I always say law is trumped by economics, and economics and law are trumped by psychology. Egos
we're all people.
These people did not get on the bench because they lacked ego.
Well, that's certainly true.
The president certainly didn't get elected president because he lacked ego, but he is presuming that he can do to the judiciary what he has done to the congressional, and I don't think he can, but it's not for me to decide, or my opinion doesn't matter. But you just asked me a question.
Yeah,
so
no, it matters to us on the show, certainly.
Okay.
You have written about Maryland elections and judicial elections holding judges accountable. You wrote that judicial accountability is now more public than ever, more of a public issue than ever. What did you mean by that?
Well, you can see it on the daily front page of every newspaper and every media in this country. Judges are being evaluated. They're being evaluated by the President of the United States to the point where he's asking for them to be impeached.
Right.
They're being evaluated by various cause advocacy groups, by politicians. So we're being evaluated. So the question of, it used to be the debate was, that affects our independence. Well, if it does, too bad, so sad, because you're going to be evaluated anyway. So wouldn't it be nice when somebody is attacked, let alone asked to be impeached, if we could produce an evaluation by somebody who's neutral?
We only
and who
have,
hasn't got a case in front of them.
Right.
That they're unhappy about the result of.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but I want to ask you about Maryland judicial elections, because we're starting to see some changes with outside candidates trying to unseat people who've been recommended by the governor in a bipartisan commission. What do you think needs to happen there, just quickly in 30 seconds?
We need to have another way to hold judiciary accountable, which is judicial evaluations. Those who run on crazy issues, get elected on issues that don't matter to anybody. I ran twice. I know. I got asked questions, including, would the President of the United States, I'm a state court judge, would the President of the United States like me? And I said, I'm sure he would.
All right, Judge Platt. Well, we'll have to have you back to talk about the future of elections in Maryland for judges. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for being here.
All right, we'll be right back after this.